interesting facts about famous people.
Psychological Western movies. The Western's evolution has seen important films released from the silent era till the present day. Today's video, one could characterize as being of the psychological Western mold. That is a revisionist take on the genre, which, while retaining common themes and visual cues, deals increasingly with interpersonal relationships and the darkness associated with minds plagued by haunted histories. Tormented psyches aplenty. Audiences kept guessing in the dark. If you enjoy this video, take a look at my channel for more. The link's in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Duel in the Sun, 1946. Duel in the Sun is an interesting watch, intriguing in its imperfections, and could hold its own alongside some of the most maudlin melodramas. The action, when it arrives, is sporadic but tense. Jones, Pearl Chavez, is an interesting strong character, as she stands strong and fights off the encroaching prejudice and game playing she's forced to contend with from all quarters. Narrated by Orson Welles. The Bravados, 1958. A great film, and one that remains fairly dark and harrowing in its own right. Peck's second Western collaboration with director Henry King is rousing and exciting. Peck carries the film as the vengeful Jim Douglas, and the film is really that, a shadowy, carnage-filled tale where revenge is the order of the day. Douglas is a man, utterly convinced the four men he seeks are responsible for the death of his wife 6 months prior. The support cast is fleshed out by an array of strong performers, such as Stephen Boyd and Henry Silva, whose menacing smile would become a trademark in his later villainous roles. All players render the characters more than mere cardboard cutouts. The Gunfighter, 1950. Henry King's 1950 film brought a shadow-laden murkiness to the lead character of Johnny Ringo in The Gunfighter, a character whom the intertitles suggest was the fastest gunslinger of the 19th century. The opening shot sees Peck's Ringo hurtling across the desert on horseback, a lone ranger on the run from the life that plagued him. His trope was revised in later films in the genre, but The Gunfighter remains an interesting moment in the history of the Western. Of course, its release coincided with a fascinating time in Hollywood's history in general, and it perhaps was one of the first clear Westerns to demonstrate the reflectiveness a noted tough guy is capable of. Johnny Ringo is the quintessential anti-hero, and Peck approaches the role perfectly, bringing broody gravitas and rendering the famed outlaw a taciturn, later emphatic, jaded individual, still capable of reckless impulsivity should anyone cross him. Pursued, 1947. Raoul Walsh's dark, ominous psychological western, Pursued, is simply superb, with noirish narration and a protagonist whose ever-present sense of doom hovers over his head like a storm cloud. Pursued is a different beast, and views like a suspense thriller with horses and hats. The film follows Robert Mitchum's Jeb Rand, orphaned as a youth, struggling to come to terms with a past he has largely suppressed. His family was wiped out in a nighttime raid when he was a child, and it is a memory revealed to the viewer in a series of increasingly detailed flashbacks. Brought in and raised by the apparently accommodating Callums, what he doesn't know is there are certain members of the Callum clan with a long-standing grudge against the Rands. When Jeb is shot one day, his deep-seated trauma and paranoia is lured to the surface. Bad Day at Black Rock, 1955. John Sturges' chilling neo-western is a monolithic late 50s film, and one that continues to contain important messages. It's also a riveting mystery thriller, one brimming with amoral characters, brought to you by a gallery of fearless performers. It's a landmark picture and a premiere film in the psychological western mold. Spencer Tracy's MacReady arrives at the small town in the California desert in 1945, looking to uncover the facts behind the disappearance of a man named Kamoko. Blackrock is a riveting indictment of collective inaction when faced with a heinous crime, and examines the culpability of passive bystanding. It also challenges prejudice and contains some strong messages at its core. The third act is generally pulse-pounding. 3:10 to Yuma, 2007. Jane Mangold's flair for impressive visuals and assembling excellent casts is on full display in this film. Dustier and more action-packed than some of the others listed here, 3:10 to Yuma is a roaring success in the way it successfully builds strong characters to balance out the thrills. And right from the get-go, the thrills are in high supply. From the opening sequence, wherein Christian Bale's passive, well-meaning Dan Evans is powerless to stop his home burning after it's set alight by debt collectors, to the introduction of Russell Crowe's dastardly Jack Wade and his henchman played by Ben Foster. The stage is set for at least one fiery battle of wits. Both chief actors are exemplary in the film, and the film is dizzyingly shot, using the landscape beautifully. Evans wants redemption and sees chaperoning the notorious criminal Wade as an opportunity. Wade thinks he can leverage the situation, more than just a series of shootouts. This incarnation gets under the skin due to the well-fleshed-out psychology of its primary players, and Crowe and Bale excel in their roles, delivering top-notch turns. Man of the West, 1958, directed by Anthony Mann, and remains one of the most intriguing, oddball entries in the director's vast repertoire. With Gary Cooper at his solid best in the lead, the film spends a lot of time in one location, heavy on atmosphere and mood, as much as it is on action. Its interplay between its characters render it endlessly interesting, and best read as Western noir fusion, with psychological elements to spare. Its interplay between its characters render it endlessly interesting, and best read as Western noir fusion, with psychological elements to spare. Here, Cooper's Link Jones is innocently trying to forget about his former outlaw ways, and is on the way to Fort Worth in a redemption arc, which Mann was a master at portraying in different ways. When the train is set upon by armed bandits, his journey is halted, and he's forced to seek refuge in the farmhouse where he grew up. There, he is confronted by the robbers and his uncle Tobin, the ringleader of the posse. Tobin is played by the firebrand Lee J. Cobb, and Link is forced to defy his uncle's insistence. He reminds himself of his thieving past. The Hateful Eight, 2015, a fascinating western that contains as many thrills as anything else in the director's filmography. Headlined by Samuel L. Jackson in a commanding performance, the film pulls the rug out from under the viewer in turning its classical western setup into a whodunit scenario, as its snowy setting becomes a character in itself. Very Tarantino, close to the most inventive film in the director's canon, in its successful potpourri of genres. A motley crew of individuals, including Jackson's bounty hunter, Kurt Russell's bounty hunter, and Jennifer Jason Leigh's Daisy, are forced to take shelter from a soon-to-arrive blizzard at a haberdashery, where they are greeted by an assortment of other lodgers. Tensions arise, and the dialogue is typically grandiose and brilliant. The barbs hit as hard as the slugs, and the air is seldom clear of distrust or gunpowder. Slow West, 2015. The premise is relatively simple, but its inclusion of a doomed love-lorn romance and the sustained ebbs and flows in the relationship between bounty hunter Selias Selleck, Michael Fassbender, and his somewhat reluctant protege Cody Smith McPhee render the film a powerful, evocative revisionist western that punctuates its languid silences and thoughtful philosophy with moments of jarring brutality. Shot in New Zealand, doubling for Colorado, first-time director John McClane brings remarkable assuredness and restraint to a picture that resonates long after the credits. McPhee is Jay Cavendish, a young man from Scotland who heads to the American West in pursuit of his lost love, Rose. He encounters the resourceful Selleck en route and decides to use the bounty hunter as his bodyguard as he navigates across the country, fumbling his way toward a futile destiny. Of course, there is a bounty on Rose's head, and Selleck decides to use the kid as a way to claim the dough for himself, and strives to keep the information concealed, while also assuming the role of would-be protector. Beautifully shot, and littered with many funny moments by way of the hodgepodge of characters that drift in and out of the unlikely duo's cross-country journey. Ben Mendelsohn's Pain, also a bounty hunter, who used to work with Selleck, complicates matters too, as he is also in pursuit of gain. Unforgiven, 1992. Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven needs no introduction, extolled as a defining film of the genre. The picture also embodies many of the traits central to the psychological western, widely seen as a film that re-injects life into the genre. Unforgiven is always exciting, but its moments of quietude hit as hard as its indelible showdowns. Of course, Eastwood was no stranger to directing westerns, with an, at times, spooky flavour. Unforgiven is grounded, a film loaded with nerve-inducing sequences as his hardened, once immoral William Money looks to leave the darkness of his former life behind. Lured into undertaking one last job, alongside loyal friend Ned Logan, Morgan Freeman, Money is again forced to, once again, resort to his unflinching ways when faced with tyrannical sheriff Little Bill Daggett, Gene Hackman. Later motivated by a personal loss, Money is a character tortured by some of the horrors of his former days. He's no longer indomitable. He can be worn down, bested. He is forever plagued by regret, and his sorrow comes out in half-muttered sentences, hat drawn low. Welcome to any new viewers on my channel. Thanks for your time today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate your likes and subscribers. Don't forget to hit the notification button to get my new videos. Share with your friends. Drop me your comments. Bye for now. See you again soon.
Interesting facts about famous people.